Okay, so we're commencing 27th of May analysis. I think this week we can actually have, compared to last week at least, we can have more um, certainty in terms of direction. Definitely, I think compared to last week. Pure reason for that being is that we've pulled quite heavily back inside of the range. Um, Counterparty, we've already paired with counterparty, so we're likely to now run. Again, it may just be another lackluster week where you have another inside week like we had last week here, as you can see. But even then, as I've proven with my scalp model that I like to use with weeks that are not that eventful, we can still do quite a handsome, you know, amount of return. So we don't need to have a very explosive. In fact, I've noticed in the explosive ones, I actually tend to not do quite well at. I'm not sure why, but I've just noticed a general pattern. Because there's going to be a lot of waiting, and then when it does actually happen, chances are, because it's that of much of a whipsaw beforehand, that you're not really allowed to participate in the big move anyway. So it's like, what's even the point of that, right? Whereas with the small ones, it's easy to just predict the premium discount raise and just kind of get in sync with that in the intraday flow, and then take your profits and then just be done with it. You know, um, let it retrace 100 handles or points or pips back. So the low range weeks actually, or the days, I guess, in that regard, actually the weeks, I would say, they do tend to serve me well. Anyways, cutting it to the chase, we can see here that Monday, we opened up. So the drawn liquidity for that was just the premium working inside of this. So we made the low of the week on Monday, actually. I think in London, probably, yeah, as you can see here. And they just kind of took off. And then last day of the week, Friday, is when we kind of broke down a little bit, which is quite expected on a week where if it's really one-sided, then there's a really high chance Friday will do a reversal, which it did here. Now, keeping up with the trajectory here, this is the drawn liquidity, long-term this and maybe this, which is bearish, which is risk on, dollar lower, everything else higher. I'm expecting obviously this target. Now, obviously we know we're not going to go straight there, so let's look at counterparty first of all. So straight away, what jumps at me is this counterparty, 4 hours. Um, should we even dare to go all the way there? Which we absolutely can if it's inside. If it's just staying inside of the range, working inside of the range, then yeah, absolutely it can do that. Because there's 50% of the range, don't forget. So it might want to do a premium before it wants to do a run. That way it can kind of sustain this trend line and then sell the idea that this is a support and just keep going higher. And then, of course, uh, sell off later on in the week. Now, having that being said, though, we don't actually have a lot of news. As you can see, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we don't have red news for US dollar. Obviously, Monday you kind of exclude that bank holiday, but it's only till Thursday that we have some news. So 1:30, and then again 1:30 here. A lot of news actually on Friday. Probably the most news um, out of the entire week. So that's of course the big moves. Now, intra-week wise, again, this is still a gun to head. I'm not still very sure of this move actually unfolding here. If anything, it could actually, I think, just as easily not even entertain the possibility of a breakout here at all. It could literally just make a low on Monday and just keep working higher into this range, Might hit this, then the consequence encroachment might see a little bit of a break, and then it resumes higher into this SIBI, if not even higher. Okay? So that can absolutely happen. And then maybe next week we might see the breakdown or the move that we are actually anticipating. You see, when it's ranges like these, they like to just play with everyone's feelings because they know that what the masses are thinking, that it's going to go lower, right? The trend is your friend, right? After all, everyone's going to find it easier to short this because it's been going lower, right? So they're going to want to play on that sentiment. So they love when there's a one-sided sentiment, not one-sided in the ICT sense of things, where it's one-sided towards a drawn liquidity, but more of a retail. So think of it like retail really convinced it's going to go to, let's say, bearish in this case. They want to play on that. Now, what they're going to do with that is they're going to make it look like, oh, yes, you're right, actually. Look, it's breaking down, it's going lower. And then, boom, reverse. And because let's say they might have scheduled it to go lower on Thursday, with some news event, or in this case actually Friday, right? Then they might early on in the week break it down. Everyone shorts it. Yep, let's go. Boom, reverse it higher. And then again Tuesday you might see a shallow move indicating it's going to go lower. And it's going to, yep, it's going to go lower now, right? I'm going to short retail shorts it. Guess what? It's going to reverse. So they keep doing that. Okay, they keep playing on that sentiment. That's the whole point of creating the sentiment in the first place. They want to play that. So I think that can be visible. So if you see an early break lower, I'd be really suspicious, especially early on in the week. If I see a movement towards the weekly direction, that's normally a red flag for me. That we're probably going to see some tomfoolery where they're going to make it look like it's going there, but it actually won't. In fact, many times it can even do the complete opposite when that happens. So if weekly direction is lower and early on in the week it's going lower, it can actually do against the entire weekly bias that I held. Actually, that's the week last week, as you can see. So last week we had a bearish bias, as you know. We were saying that this is actually going to go lower, right? But then what ended up happening is early on in the week, as early as the London session, actually, it started going lower, right? And I think actually Tuesday is a good example. Yeah, Tuesday started going lower, and that didn't make any sense because as long as it was going higher, that is what I wanted to see early on in the week, right? But then as soon as this opened, it just started going lower, not even completely. I think there was some fair value gap. Yeah, the daily. Yeah, it started going lower. I'm like, red flag. And then that's when you can see it just did completely opposite to the week. So Monday, Tuesday, you definitely want to see it going towards the counterparty side, not the weekly side. So that's another clue, another layer of confluence. That's not the be all end all. That's just a very small piece to a bigger puzzle that you add on over time and with experience. Um, that's how it's going to work. Okay. So again, gun to head is this is going to go lower early on, looking for a higher play to entice extra short positions, and then obviously we'll go lower later on if all things go to plan. But then we also know it could just as easily not work out, and we can actually just keep going higher. So again, we're gonna see how it behaves early on in the week. That'll be a big clue as well. But let's just say the perfect world works out. Okay, then you're looking for on this one, it's gonna go higher. So that means you move lower first in the week originally, and then of course an expansion higher. So that's all. Thank you.